Hi, Internet!
The next White Dwarf leaked, and we're going to talk about it.
Hooray! The cover of this magazine had everyone in a tizzy, but it wasn't until soon after that we knew most of what was in store for us, thanks to these leaks.
So best get to sneaking and grab yourself some purple paint, because it's time to infiltrate with some Sentries. And here we are, Sentries.
Yep.
This stuff's cool, huh?
This is really cool. I am very excited to play these once we've got the full set in hand.
Yeah. There's some interesting stuff on here. A lot of people were really worried about this because, full disclosure, I don't think this is meant for match play, tournament play, anything like that. It's not very well balanced. Would you agree with that?
I mean, early days, right? We haven't actually put models and tested this, but yeah, they are by design asymmetric missions.
Yes.
And so there's inherent issues with that if you're trying to run a competitive game, a tournament style competitive game.
Mm-hmm.
But for fun games and for narrative games, these are going to be incredible.
Yeah. These are really interesting.
For After Dark games, these are going to be
absolutely
amazing.
Absolutely, especially with the player-placed terrain and the monstrosities you can build that way. But I digress. Let's pop right into it. So Sentries is coming out in the next White Dwarf. I don't know what number it is. Whichever one comes out, I think May. And the cover showed the word Sentries, and it had us all wondering. It's like, oh, what are they doing? Something weird, like original Kill Team from 4th or 6th edition or something like that. And then pretty much the next day, or maybe even less than 24 hours later, we had the first page of the rules, which we'll go through first, which gave us more confusion. And then we saw the missions, which gave some clarity, but also a lot of excitement for you and me. So these are all leaks. So if you already have the White Dwarf and you're saying, it's like, wow, they did a really crummy job getting these scans. No, this is just off of Reddit. This is just whoever leaked it gave it to us. Some of these pages kind of look like weird CAPTCHA. They're kind of hard to read. So since Alex is mostly Cogboy, if the robot part of him can't read it, just let me know, Alex. I'll read it for you.
Look, if I can't tell how many buses are on the page, you're just going to have to read it for me.
I have trouble with that as a newbie. So anyway, so Sentries, yeah. Do you want to take the first one of these?
Yeah, sure. So this whole mission pack, the key of it is that instead of our traditional rock paper scissors for what I want to call the scouting phase, because I'm an old Kill Team player and it's not the scouting phase. What's it called?
I think it's called the scouting phase.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll
scouting
go with that.
Step. Not scouting
step. Yes, there you go.
There was a difference. You're right.
Yeah. So basically, from what you're used to, you take that, throw it to the side, and we replace it with this whole new Sentries operation thing. Mm-hmm. And the gist of it is the attacker will get one model, and the defenders will get two models, and you throw them on in your deployment zones, and then you play a little mini game of shuffling them around and the attacker's trying to solid snake his way through terrain while defenders are trying to spot him.
Yeah, and the defenders are always set up with an engage order. I think in this bullet point it says that always engage order. So you can't choose a defender model that can only be concealed because it's illegal. And likewise, the attacker is only concealed. So no bomb squig infiltrator. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh my god, the bomb squig's just going to run amok and get really far up the board. No, not possible. And like you said, you just ignore the scouting step, and the phase goes until an alarm is raised, and we'll get to how that happens. And you can't score any points, but you can set yourself up to score points as the attacker, as we'll also get into. So there's two phases to Sentry, so this game is already super complicated, but now there's multiple phases to the setup phase of the Sentry phase. So firstly, it's Sentries, which are the defender models. And this is the first nugget where I'm like, this is not really balanced for tournament play, because whenever a defender model, their sentry activates, the defender and the attacker player both roll a d6. And if the attacker's result is higher, the attacker moves the defender model. And that's just like, woo, I don't like the idea of that. Get your hands off of my model with engaged, right? You're going to put him in a really bad spot. Mm-hmm. So this is like the first nugget where I'm like, this clearly isn't meant for match play, but it's pretty intense to select your defender model and then roll off and be like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen to him. So I kind of dig that from a fluff and fun kind of perspective.
Yeah. And not just one player, both players can control the model. You don't even know how far it's actually moving.
Yeah,
it's a you move d6 inches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be that you could end up in a situation where you control your own model and it moves 1 inch 3 times in a row, and then your opponent gets it once and gets to move it 6 inches and just completely undoes everything you've tried to do.
Yeah, and some. And the way I read this, it's even if you have a model like a Plague Marine with 2 circle movement, they still move d6. So you could get a very speedy Plague Marine in this Sentry phase, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. There may be some rules as written conflicts. I would have to look at the normal move like action, the way it's specifically written.
Sure.
But I would just say that this clearly overwrites whatever it says in the rulebook. Like, if this says you move 5 inches and you only have 4 inches, you move 5 inches.
Yeah. I think that's fair. There's no language in here that says unless the model cannot move that distance. Yeah. So I think your call is the right one. Mm-hmm. So then once all the defenders go, the intruder gets to go, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we just covered defenders, and that's a little weird, like both players can control. With the attacking model, though, it's just the attacker player gets to control it. There's no shenanigans, nothing in particular, and they actually do get their full action, or their full activation, right?
Yeah. All of
well, not exactly full. Yeah,
they get all their APL.
Yeah. Yes. But you are essentially limited to movement actions and the special TAC op ones that come into these particular missions, which will come up in a moment.
Yeah, not so much the TAC ops, just a minor correction there. The mission actions, because it explicitly says not TAC op mission actions. Yeah,
that other way around.
Do
as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, so the one intruder does its thing, and if the intruder doesn't activate the alarm, which you're going to get to now, then you just do it all over again, and you keep going. So that's the other part of this where I'm like, oh, this is not for tournament days. Those days are already super tight on time, right?
Yeah.
This perpetual going out. Who knows how long this is going to last, when before it was just showing how many dice you had in your hands, and that was the end of the scouting phase. Yeah, I can't see any TO wanting to do this kind of stuff on a tournament day.
Although there are built-in limiters. It will eventually end.
Yeah, eventually. You can get there. So speaking of which, raising the alarm, you need line of sight, and they're very explicit of this, because you have to be visible, not obscured, not in cover, to be in a Sentry's line of sight. So not just visibility. If you're having difficulty with the line of sight, check out our video, Card Over Alex's Head, where we go into all the line of sight stuff. So you need line of sight, and if an intruder's in line of sight of a Sentry, alarm goes off. If they're within a certain proximity, which, trust me, this is a blue square or 3 inches of a Sentry. If you get close enough, or if the intruder gets too close to the defender's DZ, both of those will automatically trigger the alarm. But then the attacker just chooses when they want, or if they satisfy a specific condition, which we'll see in a moment. Yeah. So this is that final, the third piece of that not for match play triangle that I was getting at, that the attacker could just keep perpetuating this to go on and on and on until they get a 5 on a D6 to throw one of the Sentries out in the middle of nowhere with an engage order and says, "All right, we're done," and then they start blasting, right? So that's the final part that I'm just like,
So does this mean that the alarm is raised at the end of the attacker's activation if they're within 6 inches of the drop zone, or it's just the moment they cross that line?
Well, that's a good question.
Do we know?
Once the intruder has been activated, and if the alarm has not been raised, so they get a finish.
Okay.
They get a finish.
So, in theory, the attacker can park their model 6.5 inches away at the end of one phase, and then yeet them 9 inches and be 3 inches into the drop zone.
That I didn't pick up on
and
that.
And the game starts.
I think you're 100% right. Oh no! Oh,
no, this
Breacher Boy gonna come get you.
This is terrible. This is terrible, and by terrible I mean amazing.
Yeah.
Because
and especially models that have a lot of agency on their own, like a commando knob or anything that can give itself bonus APL, or a model that has an extra bonus to conceal, like a Gene Stealer or something like that, where that you can't shut them off easily, or a model that can do mission actions cheaply. All those kind of things can really help you amp up how effective your intruder is. And on the flip side of that, you have a lot of choice to get a really good intruder, but then as far as your defender, your sentry, you just want to put whatever chaff is just going to be a warm body that's going to look around, because you don't want them to be in any danger due to the agency of the attacker. So it's weird how like the attacker has a lot more fun with this. But in the fun also comes from the missions. And this final thing, just to cruise by this, in the first initiative phase, you don't do any scouting phase or anything like that. You just roll off like you would for any of the other subsequent turning points to see who has initiative. So there's no mini game rock paper scissors.
Right.
And then I guess it's a square. There's 4 things that make this not competitive. Is that you can't change the sentry or the intruder's orders. Until they activate. So they're stuck with engage if you're a sentry until you activate them. You can't flip them at the beginning of the turning point to what you would want them. So this kind of coincides with the loss of agency of where you'd want them to be, that it could make it really dangerous for them. But yeah. And it came with 6 missions too, right?
Yes, 6.
Yeah. I think, those are the next ones that we have. So what do you think of this one? Do you want to cruise through it real quick, Alex, and let us know what you think?
So the first one, it's pretty basic. So most of these missions will add an additional way to trigger the alarm being raised. And so in this one, you see that right off the bat. So can you tab over to the map real fast?
Yeah.
So we've got 6 objectives. Important to know. Go back. And so during the sentry phase, the attacker can perform this action to start securing these objectives. And then if they have secured 3 objectives, the alarm is automatically raised. So there is a little bit of a limit. And in this mission, you're fighting over secured objectives. So even if the attacker gets super lucky, they can't completely control the battlefield right off the start. Like it just can't happen. They've done a good job making it fluffy and interesting for a narrative game, but it's not going to blow wildly out of control if it goes one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, what it accomplishes is that you still need to control the objective, but you save 3 APL on your first turning point because you don't have to run there and activate it to get a point from it. You just need to be present on there. And yeah, the 6 objectives. So if you get within, if you get close enough, I think, I didn't measure these out to see how far away they are, but I'm pretty sure if you're on these objectives, you're within 3. So it's basically these are within 6, and you would trigger the alarm. So it's basically definitely. These are the ones that you would focus on, but you could squeeze your way all the way up there. Good chance you're going to have a defender that's coming at you, though.
And interestingly, the layout sets it up to where you do kind of want to cruise that model forward rather than like do the 2 closest to the attackers. So it's not balanced competitively, but I think that it's a good design. Yeah, it creates interesting decisions.
Yeah, it's not as imbalanced as the ambush Octarius thing, where it's pretty much just a kill box.
That was bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So second mission, this is a lot more chunky. Basically, the gist of this mission is if you secure an asset, you move it towards your DZ by 2 inches or white circle. So by securing that asset and moving it towards you, it makes it easier to then claim that asset with another AP. So you can secure an asset 3 times as the intruder, so you're basically pulling these closer to you, right? And you can do that 3 times, so you get a total of 6 inches of movement towards you. During the initiative phase, you actually each have to set your own alpha, your own primary objective. Defender does theirs first, and you get a free move to begin with. So then technically, as the intruder, you then have 8 total inches to manipulate assets towards you.
But if I'm remembering correctly, you really want to go you want to go for your opponent's alpha, right?
Mm-hmm. To try and pull that towards you. And then also, right. I made a mistake. You can only move it once in the intruder phase, so you can't daisy chain one all the way.
Oh,
back
gotcha.
Yeah, I was, as I was saying it, I was like, oh, there's a catch. I'm forgetting a catch. Yeah. And then the opponent's alpha is definitely the one you want to fight over, but that's going to be hard to get to because they're probably going to put sentries around it. Because that one you'll get an additional VP from, in addition to other ones that you score. So just like you're saying, you are going to want to try and pull the alpha if you can. Okay. This one's super captcha, so let me know if you can read this or not, Alex.
Nope, I do not know which of these are bridges and which of these are buses.
So this is a third mission, Spike Data Core. You basically can, if you breach one of these objectives, which costs an APL, again only 3, you score an extra point from it if by making it into the alpha terminal by breaching it. So your objective as an intruder is to choose one that you're going to breach, probably one that's on the map is going to be easier for you to control, so that way you can get 2 VP instead of 1.
Yeah, that one's pretty simple.
Yeah,
there's nothing too crazy about it.
What do you think? You got this one?
Nope. That is
I'm
super blurry.
I'm just going to read the rest of them. Yeah, this is the best quality I could get. I even ran them through a filter to try and get rid of the fuzz after I blew them up, and I don't know if it helped. So designated, not disintegrated priorities. No disintegrations. Restart the
I'd play that game.
So, yeah, it's called Legion. So the alarm's raised if you designate a key asset, if 3 times. So the defender will designate any key assets that remain if you don't get up to 3. And then everything else kind of gets thrown away. Is that the right one that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it's correct. They also make one condition a little easier, just because of the layout of the objectives. The ones that are closest to your opponent's drop zone, you would have to be within 6 inches in order to play with them. So they've changed the no-go zone to 4 inches instead of 6 inches.
Right here. Yeah, that's a good thing to point out. Yeah, in the rules they designate something about saying unless otherwise specified, this is where it's otherwise specified. Right. So that way you can actually interact with those ones. So basically, as the intruder, you're just trying to choose which are going to be the active objectives, probably ones that you can focus on a little easier on controlling. And if you don't tag 3 of them, then the defender finishes up to 3, and then you trash the rest of the objectives.
That one, I think, has perhaps the most interesting pre-game play, just because the battlefield changes so much based on how that pre-game goes. Again, making it wildly unbalanced for any sort of competitive play.
Yeah, but what I like about this one is that you're not giving a point advantage. early on, and you're not giving an APL advantage early on.
Yeah.
It's literally just a mini game to try and craft the battlefield as best as you want, and then the defender says, "No, I got it." When they they're I think it's a little bit more interesting, I think. Secure supplies. Basically, as the sentry, you want to go out there and try and sabotage supplies that your opponent's going to get to, so that way it costs them more APL to score from it. Because if you sabotage the supplies, it costs 2 APL, versus unsabotaged supplies are 1. So you're just going around and mucking around with stuff, so that way it's harder for them to get the supplies.
Yeah, and it affects you as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it affects both of you, but as the attacker, you'll want to go for the ones that, that you're going to want to force them into, and then you're going to have a plan for the ones that aren't sabotaged. Because they can sabotage you during the game as well. But as the intruder, you get the 1-up to try and do that. And a ton of objectives on here. These don't go away, so I think this might be the first 6. No, I think there was another one that had 6, but a lot of these had 3.
But then we lost 3 of them.
I think maybe the first one. The first one had 5. No, the first one did have 6.
It's 6. You're right. Yeah.
Anyway, and then the final one, initiate transmission. This one's super interesting as the intruder, because the alarm goes off if you amplify once or you initiate a transmission twice. So the min-maxi brain that I can have sometimes is that, okay, well, you want to initiate one transmission and then amplify another one after you've initiated one, just so you can score some more points, because you get 2 VPs if you control something that's amplified versus just initiated. So you want to do that probably on an objective that you can control easier. And this one only has 4. Yeah, that's it. These seem like a lot of fun, and honestly, even without these missions, I think I could have a lot of fun on just beer and pretzels days and narrative games with doing the scouting and ignoring all of this stuff, kind of just to try and do other types of mission actions like consecrate ground and all that kind of stuff, to do that early on, or secure the archaeotech, where you can grab an objective and then start to pull it towards you again. Like those kind of missions, I think play really well with the scouting phase.
Yeah. I also think it could be, I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. I think it could be really fun, like when you're doing beer and pretzel days, to start doing things like, say, after every 2 full go-rounds of the sentry phase, both players get to add another operative.
Oh my goodness! And that's how you do your whole deployment.
It's just, and so that's just how it, like, until the alarm is raised. Just every little bit, it just keeps getting more and more and more in.
I dig it. That's really interesting. But yeah, Sentry seems fun. It's a specific pack called Critical Operations Sentries, which is in the White Dwarf. Now, if you're worried about this showing up at tournaments, you don't like this, all that kind of stuff, TOs are going to choose which mission packet they're going to use. So they'll say core book mission packet, or they'll say you should have plenty of heads up if this is going to be at a tournament. But suffice it to say that the TOs that I've talked to have not showed any interest in having this in a tournament setting. So take the knives out, or put them away. Yeah, the knives were out.
Put them away.
Put away the knives.
Yeah. I don't think any mainline tournament's gonna run this for their packet. But I think for narrative, like if you're at a narrative event or a narrative day at an event or something of that nature, I think it not only could but probably should show up, because it's ludicrous and silly, and that's precisely what you want out of narrative missions.
Yeah. And one final asterisk before we kick this down. Kick this down? Turn this off.
Bring it
down. Turn it down. English not very best for me. One final thing is that in the intro of this, we glazed over it, but it said that this is a slightly modified version of Sentries that will appear in the Morok. That's the next one. The next box.
Something like that.
The one that was teased recently on the Warhammer event. And those missions are always narrative missions. So expect to see Sentries with a small tweak to it. I don't know what that tweak's going to be, obviously. But it's going to be slightly different than what we've seen. But they'll be tied to those missions. So I'm curious to see what other kind of shenanigans they're going to have us get up to.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was fun. Cool. Bye, Internet.
Yeah. Bye, Internet. Thanks for watching. See you next time.